In this video, we're going to learn about volume. The questions that we'll answer are, what is volume and how do we find it? The first thing you need to know about volume is what it is. Volume is the measure of how much room is in an object. Some examples of items that we might use volume to measure the inside space of are swimming pools, rectangular prisms, boxes. One of the first things we need to know about volume is what do we measure it with? Here we have a cubic centimeter. What this is a cube that's 1 centimeter on all sides. It's also three-dimensional, which means it's not flat. Watch as I make an array out of my cubic centimeters. So what I have here is an array using cubic centimeters. The next thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out the dimensions of each of the sides. So what you'll notice is that this array has 2 dimensions already with it. It has length and it has width. Let's see how many cubic centimeters equals the length and how many cubic centimeters equals the width. What we have to do is count the amount of cubes along each side. On this side, for the length, let's count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So the length of this array is 5. Now we'll do the same thing and figure out how many cubes is the length of the width by counting how many cubes are along that side. So let's count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So the width of this array is also 5. So in order to make a 3D rectangular prism, the next dimension that we need is height. Since there's only one layer in this array of cubic centimeters, we might also say that the height is equal to 1. So we've got 5 cubes by 5 cubes and only one layer. In order to figure out the total amount of cubic centimeters that are in this row, I could take the length, multiply it by the width, and then think about how many layers I have by multiplying it by the height. If I do length times width, or in this case, 5 times 5, I should notice that there are 25 cubic centimeters in this array. So on level 1 of my cube, I've got 25 little cubes. Next, I'm going to build another layer on top of this one. The second layer is going to have exactly the same amount of cubes as layer 1. Okay, now I'm going to check the dimensions again and see if I can figure out how many total centimeter cubes are in this entire 3-dimensional figure. First, I'm going to start by counting the amount of cubes on one side, known as the length. It should be the same as last time, but let's count.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So the length here is the same. Let's count how many cubic centimeters it takes to make the width.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
So in this case, the width is still 5. Now let's see if my height is still 1. I can do that by looking at the side and going up and asking myself, how many layers of cubic centimeters do I have now? Well, here's the first layer, and it goes all the way around on the first layer. And on top of that, we've got a second layer. So the height is 2. Let's figure out how many total cubes are on the first layer. Remember, I can do that by multiplying length times width. So if I do length times width to figure out how many cubic centimeters are on the first row, I can do 5 times 5, and that should tell me that there are 25 cubes on the first layer. I need to add that to however many cubes are on the second layer. In this case, it should be exactly the same. So what I can do now is take my 25 cubes on the first layer, multiply it by 2 since there are 2 layers, and that should tell me how many total cubes it takes to make this prism. 25 times 2 is 50. So the volume of this 3D figure is 50.